Chapter 17 of Betty Baird by Hamlin Weikel. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Holly Jensen. Chapter 17 The Masquerade. There was great excitement at the Pines when it was announced that they were again to have a masquerade. It had been omitted the year before, much to the disappointment of the pupils, for it was always the most popular entertainment given. The date set for it this year was Washington's birthday. It was strictly private, only the pupils attending. Betty was charmed with the idea, and she and her roommate had many long conversations over the selection of their costumes. As far as possible, the girls kept their disguises from each other, so that there was always great excitement when the time came for unmasking. Our roommates, however, did not attempt secrecy towards each other. "Why, half the fun is in talking it over to each other and changing our minds every half hour," said Betty. "I am going to be some character that demands a black wig," she went on, "for I've always wanted black, jet black hair, and now is my chance." "Well," said Lois, "what character will you take?" "Oh, if I can't do any better, I shall make my character suit my wig. For one night I am going to be just the kind of looking girl I have always wanted to be. I am going to be tall, so I shall have high heels and wear my wig piled up on top of my head. My wig will be without one crimp. I love red cheeks, so I'll paint mine red like Jess's. I shall wear red, all the red I can. I have been tied to blue until I'm sick of it." "Are you going to be a Japanese lady or Queen Isabella?" asked Lois slyly. "Oh, I have changed my mind again. I am going to be Volumnia, the noble Roman mother of Coriolanus. I'll have a red toga. Did the women wear togas? And bands through my glorious black hair. I'll learn her speeches and quote them to everyone I meet." "How many will know them?" asked Lois, whose common sense never deserted her. "I shall," answered Betty grandly. "I am going to enjoy myself. Of course," she continued, as if it were an afterthought, "I shall look at the other make-ups, but for this one evening I am not going to be Elizabeth. I am to be Volumnia of Rome. I am going to make believe, just as I did when I was 6 years old. I'll be the Roman matron, but," and she looked pensive, "I wish I could be proud of my son. I have to prod him so." "I should think you would enjoy that part of it, Betty," laughed Lois. "Of all the griefs that harass the distressed, sure the most bitter is a scornful jest," quoted Betty in mock sorrow. "Do you know that 2 of the girls are going to wear their brothers' military suits?" said Lois. "How do you know? I thought everything about the masquerade was to be such a secret." "A secret at the Pines? Impossible!" Lois exclaimed. "Oh, I have it now, Lois. Let us be Viola and Sebastian. We can soon have suits made up like those we saw in Twelfth Night in New York. I must be Viola, just so I can say, 'She never told her love,' etc." "I reckon you've forgotten that I suggested that right in the beginning. I do hope you'll stick to it long enough to get the suits made." The evening for the masquerade came, and with it more Martha Washingtons, Mary Queen of Scots, and Charlotte Cordays than this humdrum world could conveniently hold. The girls' Viola and Sebastian costumes consisted of knee breeches of brown cloth, brown stockings, buckled slippers, and brown capes reaching almost to the ground, while a jaunty brown cap with a feather in it completed each fetching get-up. As they wore wigs, and were not unlike in size and weight, they really seemed like twins. Jessie Bentworth naturally selected a mirth-provoking costume. With 3 other fun-loving spirits she formed a quartet, making a pun by the way, and they named themselves the Sally Fourths. Their make-up was extremely absurd and caused great amusement. They wore comic masks, both on their faces and on the backs of their heads, scoop bonnets open at both ends, rope hair falling down both sides of their shoulders, and gloves with 2 thumbs. As their long and remarkable skirts concealed their feet, it was simply impossible to tell which way they were really facing. They were constantly followed by a troop of masqueraders who in vain tried to discover the true faces. Poor Janice is a back number after this," said one puzzled follower. A very modern-looking cadet, Helen, paired off with Queen Elizabeth, Dorothy, who is in all the glory of a monstrous ruff, for which she showed great solicitude. She was constantly, in shrewish tones, warning her companion to take care of my ruff. A Quaker, Edna Norris, and a clown, Pauline Hayes, apparently found some peculiar ground in common, for they were inseparable, the motley and the gray mingling in the dances, while Mephistopheles and little Bo Peep sat cozily side by side on the stairs, Belle Hunter being Mephistopheles and Caroline Bo Peep. The characters that caused most remark were Beauty and the Beast. As Jess said, it would take a colossal nerve for anyone to take the part of Beauty, but when unmasking time came, she said she was not surprised to see Miriam's face appear from behind the mask. The Beast's costume was ingenious, including a donkey's head of which the ears, eyes, and jaw moved and carried out the character of the animal in a startling manner. To Betty, the crowning feature of the evening came when Miss Greene as Martha Washington and Miss Payne as Queen Elizabeth accosted her without knowing who she was. She had purposely remained seated in a melancholy attitude, waiting for an opportunity to deliver her beloved speech. "Prithee, young page, why of so melancholy countenance?" asked the stately Queen, tapping him on the shoulder with her fan, while the sedate Martha Washington stood by in republican simplicity. With a despairing gesture and head bowed mournfully, the page repeated, "She never told her love, but let concealment, like a worm in the bud, feed on her damask cheek. She pined in thought, and with a green and yellow melancholy, she sat like Patience on a monument, smiling at grief. Was not this love indeed? We men may say more, swear more, but indeed our shows are more than will, for still we prove much in our vows, but little in our love." So sadly impressive was the attitude and so thrilling the tone that every eye in the room turned to the slight young figure, while the noble sweet voice rang out. At the last words the two pages vanished through a nearby door, followed by loud clappings and cries of "Bravo!" But the pages remained invisible until the excitement had passed, when they came quietly in. The military suits of which Lois had spoken were very successful and lent dignity to the evening. After the Shakespeare recital, one of the wearers dogged Betty and Lois until they turned in great scorn. "Hast no sword, good fellow?" jibed Viola, shaking her toy sword. The two pages laughed scornfully and walked away, but the young soldier followed. "Avaunt, or I'll run you through," threatened Sebastian, but the soldier pursued them courageously. "Nature hath framed strange fellows in her time," said Viola to Sebastian in a stage whisper, and she continued tauntingly, "Why are we so pestered with a popinjay?" "Oh, monstrous!" replied Sebastian, looking back fiercely at their silent shadow. When the pages sat, the silent soldier sat. When they walked, he walked, but never a word uttered he. "Who in the world is it?" Betty asked in an undertone. "I didn't think there was a girl in the school who could hold her tongue this long." "I'm almost afraid," said Lois. "Nonsense," said Betty. "I'm proud of her, and I shall watch when the masks are taken off. There are 4 soldiers, so we must keep our eyes on them. By the way, Lois, I thought you told me only 2 of the girls were going to wear cadet suits. I wonder who else decided to wear them." Then, insolently over her shoulder to the silent figure, "Art thou there, True Penny?" "How do you remember all those quotations?" sighed Lois enviously. "I can't think of one." "Why, I have been quoting all my life, and many's the time I have been scolded for it, but this proves that no learning is lost," she answered in a mock-wise tone. "Oh, I have thought of one," rejoiced Lois. Then, turning sternly on the cadet, said, "Assume a virtue if you have it not, and come here and try to talk." The soldier came and sat just in front of them, but he said not a word. As he moved towards them, Viola said, "By the pricking of my thumbs, something evil this way comes," and she pointed her sword at the grim soldier. "Excellent dumb discourse," she added, as they walked off, stumbling over their swords in their haste. "For my voice I have lost it," she continued disdainfully. "I was never so bethumped with words," hissed at last the silent one, and he disappeared in the crowd. At the sound of his voice Betty started. It was familiar, yet she could not at the instant recollect whose it was, but it gave her an impression of not belonging to one of the schoolgirls. "Did you recognize her voice?" she asked Lois. "I have been wondering," the latter answered. "It sounds familiar, yet I can't think which of the girls it is." "Well," said Betty, "we'll watch those cadets when they unmask. It was a good imitation of a boy's voice, but we certainly can pick her out from the four." When the hour for unmasking arrived, Betty leaned over excitedly to Lois and whispered, "Lois, there are only 2 cadets here, and I know neither of them was the one who spoke to us. Who could the other 2 have been? And why aren't they here now?" The 2 girls looked into each other's puzzled eyes as Lois repeated, "Who could they have been?" Chapter 18. Recording by Holly Jensen.